Hey, welcome back to Buckeye Barbecue. My name is Keir Holman. Behind the camera we have Ryan Holman helping me out, and off to the side helping me out we have Aiden Holman. Today we're going to be doing a tri-tip roast. I'll talk a little bit about how I'm going to cook it a little bit later, but for now I've just prepped it. I've cut off some loose pieces that would have burned. I also did some trimming, and I did that off camera because I'm no expert trimmer. There's plenty of people better than me that you can find to do that. I didn't worry about all the silver skin. In my experience on a tri-tip, this really thin silver skin is not that big of a deal, and you won't even notice it. For anybody not familiar with the tri-tip, it's a cut that is popular in California. I first had it probably 25 years ago. It's very popular on a Santa Maria style cooker. Today we're going to do it a little bit differently, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to actually marinate this all day. So we're going to use a plastic bag here and drop the tri-tip in. And I've got some green onion and some garlic already chopped up. We're going to put in the bag as well. And then I'm going to use Dale's seasoning. I don't know if you've ever had that. It's been a long time since I have, but I remember it being very good, and very good on beef especially. So I'm actually just going to pour the whole bottle in. It's probably more than we need, but I don't have any other use for it now. And we'll leave this marinating all day.
It smells good.
So I'll close it up, get all of the air out, or at least most of the air. And we'll put this back in the fridge, and we'll come back in a few hours when we're ready to cook it. Okay, so our tri-tip roast has been marinating all day. This is actually a pretty small one. It's about 2 pounds. A lot of times they are bigger than this. One thing to point out on the tri-tip is the way the grain is running. So in this case, I can see which way it's running. You could take a picture of this, but it's important to know because you'll want to slice it against the grain. It'll make the most tender pieces of meat when you do it that way. I'm going to use a meter thermometer here, so I'll pull that out. For those of you not familiar with the meter thermometers, they are totally wireless, and they will tell you the ambient temperature in your cooker as well as the internal temperature of the meat. So I'm going to put this in the thickest part of the tri-tip. By the way, I used that Dale's seasoning, or marinade, which I hope is really good. We'll see. But a marinade I usually use is really simple. Half a cup of soy sauce, a quarter cup of olive oil, a tablespoon of black pepper, and 6 to 8 cloves of garlic smashed up. And that makes a great marinade. You can multiply it if you've got a really big piece of meat. So I would encourage you to try that one as well. We'll see how the Dale's turns out. So I'm going to put this on the pit barrel cooker now. We're running based on the temperature gauge at about 225, so that's pretty good to start with. It'll probably creep up a little bit, and I'm okay with that. So remember, the rebar is in there for a reason. It's part of the venting system for the pit barrel cooker. I do have the grate in there as well, so we're going to lay it in there. I'm cooking with Kingsford Blue briquettes, and I've got 3 or 4 pieces of hickory in there in order to create some smoke. So we'll put the pit barrel cooker back on. We'll monitor the temperature until we get to that 100 to 110 degree internal temperature. Okay, so my internal probe is showing that this is at about 105. I always double check with another probe. It's showing 104, so that's pretty good. Okay, thinner part of this is going down in temperature, but it is certainly higher. So what I'm going to do is pull this off and set it in this pan, and I'm going to take it over in a few minutes and sear it off at on the Rectech. Okay, so we're back to sear off our tri-tip. You probably can't see that because of the glare, but we're running 676 degrees in the Rectech Bullseye. So that's hot enough for me, although I have gotten this thing hotter, up to I think 750 degrees, something like that. So we're just gonna drop on the tri-tip, let it sit there for 2 minutes, and then we're gonna flip it. And I'm a big believer in flipping whenever you want to flip. I don't subscribe to the only flip once theory. Matter of fact, when you're running really hot, I think it's always a good idea to flip often. So that's just me. You do you, but I wouldn't worry about flipping. Matter of fact, check that and maybe even flip it now. Yeah, so I got a nice char on that. That was probably only about 45, 50 seconds, something like that. So we will let it go another 45 seconds and then take it back over to the pit barrel cooker and finish it off. For me and my family, we like between 130 and 132 for a higher medium rare temp. And with this particular roast, there'll be part of it that will be pinker than others just because of the way it differs in how thick and thin it is throughout different parts. All right, check the other side now. I could use another minute or two, or another 30 seconds. Losing some heat with the Rectech, though surprisingly, even with the lid open, it's still running 453 degrees ambient. And my suspicion is it's hotter than that right up the road where TriTip is sitting. Okay, I think that's going to be good. I'm going to take it back over to the pit barrel. Put it on to finish off. One of the first things I'm going to do is temp this. I'm not going to worry about putting the meter back in. The meter is great for longer cooks, but I think it would be more trouble than it's worth to put it in now. So we'll take the lid off the pit barrel, which is, by the way, very hot. Tri-tip back on, and I'm going to get a quick temperature. And right now it's running about 118 in the thick part. So I'm going to let it go about another 10 degrees, 12 degrees, and then we'll pull it off and let it rest. And I'll bring you back in for the slicing. All right, so our tri-tip reached the temperature I was looking for. I pulled it off and let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes, but you always want to let your meat rest. So I'm going to cut into it. We'll see how we did. All right, a little more done than I would have wanted, but still pink, which is good. And by the way, this is a good time to tell you that I will show the good and the bad. If something didn't turn out right, I'm not going to hide it. We'll just show you, and I'll be embarrassed and whatever. But this actually did turn out pretty good. It's pretty pink, so let's try it, see how we did. So good. There's so much beef flavor in a tri-tip. It's still super juicy and super moist. If my cameraman can show the juice on the board. So, very good. Turned out exactly the way I wanted it. The seasoning and the marinade did great. Nice flavor. So I would encourage you to find a tri-tip if you can. They are hard to find in certain parts of the country. I actually got this from a place called Porter Road. They're an online butcher shop. Great meat there. So I would encourage you to visit them and see if you can find something there you like. Certainly get a tri-tip. So as always, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I very much appreciate it, and thanks for tuning in.